Welcome to the Disney Wedding Podcast. This show is brought to you by Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, the only guidebook and bridal organizer tailored exclusively to Disney's fairy tale weddings at Walt Disney World. I'm Carrie Hayward, and each week I feature Disney wedding updates, money-saving tips, and interviews with wedding vendors and real Disney couples. I also cover honeymoons, anniversaries, and engagements at the Disney parks and resorts. Join me now as the Disney Wedding Podcast celebrates romance at Disney destinations. Today on the Disney Wedding Podcast, I am speaking with Disney bride Annie Gauthney about her ceremony at Corpus Christi Catholic Church and her reception at the Grand Floridian with a dessert party at the Grand Floridian Marina. I thought you guys would be interested to hear how she chose these locations and how she planned everything and how it all turned out. So welcome, Annie.
Hi, I'm so excited to be on.
Thanks for being on the show today. I always like to start at the very beginning. So I was wondering how you guys decided that you wanted to pair a Disney reception with a ceremony at a local Catholic church.
Yeah, so originally it was all really stressful for me because I wasn't sure what the rules were with the church getting married out of state or just how that would work in Florida. I am number 6 of 7 kids, and 4 of my siblings are married, but none of them had gotten married outside of Maryland, so I didn't really have anybody to lean on with that. I knew for sure I wanted to do a church ceremony. At first, I thought, well, maybe we're going to have to do a hometown ceremony and then just do the reception in Disney, but that really wasn't what I wanted. I wanted everything to be in Florida. I originally had looked into Mary Queen of the Universe, which is about 15-ish minutes from Disney. But I was just really disappointed when I saw right on their website, they said in bold letters, we don't do weddings. So I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I had posted on one of the Disney brides Facebook pages, and I was just like, Catholic brides, what do I do? How does this work? And everybody had recommended Corpus Christi. And then there was another one that was highly recommended. I think it was called Holy Redeemer in Kissimmee. But I reached out to Corpus Christi and the church coordinator there, her name is Karen. She was amazing. She was who I worked with the entire time. And everything ended up working out perfectly. What was really nice about them too was they are very used to working with out-of-state brides who are having Disney receptions. They knew everything they were doing. It was great. So I really highly recommend Corpus Christi for any Catholic brides who are having a Disney reception.
That's great advice. Yeah. And for anyone who's wondering how this works price-wise with Disney, on page 6 of the Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, it explains how, because you're not having a ceremony location, which is how they usually determine your event minimum, they base it on whether your reception is going to be in a park or at a resort. And then if it's at a resort, they go with the event minimum for Seabreeze Point. And if it's in a park, they go with the event minimum for Animal Kingdom. So more information, like I said, in the Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, but it's definitely possible if you want to have a Catholic wedding to combine it with a reception at Disney.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did your friends and family react when they found out where the wedding was going to be?
My family was not surprised at all. If they were annoyed with having to go down to Florida, no one ever showed it, which was great for me. I've been obsessed with Disney since I was a kid. We went all the time. My family goes every year. I did the college program in 2018. So yeah, it was not much of a shock for my family. And then my in-laws too. I don't think they were very much surprised either. But funny story, I did not look up, so I'm from Maryland. I did not look up one Maryland venue. I had absolutely no interest in getting married in Maryland. Disney was just my dream, and that was that. And then we invited about 140 people, and we ended up with about 80 at the wedding. And that was the perfect amount because it was still at the reception. It still felt like a big fun party, but it was still small enough that I was able to talk to everybody, and it still felt intimate.
That's great. Did you set up a room block for your guests?
I did, and I completely regret it. For me, it did not end up being worth it. I thought it would be. That's one of the only regrets I have about my wedding. It was so stressful trying to fill the rooms because all of my family ended up staying at Shades of Green, which didn't count towards the free nights. So I highly recommend asking your guests what their plans are before you do a room block. But we did choose Coronado Springs and then Art of Animation just because I wanted a moderate and value option. My room block specialist, she had recommended not doing a deluxe because she had said, I don't remember what the exact percentage was, but she just said most people don't end up booking it anyway because of how expensive it is. So that ended up working out great for me because, again, yeah, the room block situation just wasn't good for my situation because we just didn't have too many people that actually used it.
That's interesting. So then what did you end up doing to make up the missing room nights? Did you have other people who were going to Disney at that time give you their reservation numbers to apply to your room block?
So what really ended up saving me, my uncle had booked like 5 nights through the room block. We had decided on doing like the 20 nights. But then my other uncle, he and his son both stayed at Port Orleans and they were there for a week. So between the two of them, that was another 14 nights. And then I stayed at the Riviera the night before the wedding and then the night of. So that also helped me. We ended up with like 23 out of the 20, which thank goodness I was so stressed about that for so long.
Okay, great. Now, how did you guys choose the day of the week and time of day for your event?
I originally wanted a weekend just because, that's standard for weddings, but we ended up going with a Monday because our event minimum, I'm pretty sure it was like 15K, went down that much just switching it to a weekday instead of a weekend. And I figured too, I was like, it's destination, so people are going to have to take off a day or two of work anyway. So I was like, that's it. We're doing a Monday. I am not a morning person, so I knew for sure I wanted to do an afternoon ceremony. So our ceremony was at 1, and then cocktail hour had started at 3:30, and then the reception was from 4:30 to 8, which was perfect for us. We originally were considering doing the morning just because it was so much cheaper, but I just couldn't see myself waking up at like 1 a.m. getting hair and makeup done. And so the afternoon reception ended up working out perfectly.
Got it. How did you choose your reception venue at Disney?
We got engaged actually at the Polynesian. So I originally wanted to do the reception at the Polynesian, but they weren't offering it at the time. And I'm pretty sure you can't do anything there. So Joe, who was the original planner we worked with, who I feel like everybody works with him at first, he had recommended the Grand Floridian just based on our budget. And he was great about that. He was really good about sticking to the budget that we had told him. And he just showed us a few pictures and I was like, perfect. Like, that's what I want. And I had always pictured doing pictures on the grand staircase. And so when he said that, I just knew it would be the perfect fit for us.
That's wonderful. Now, what did you do for the various elements of the ceremony where Disney wasn't involved, like your floral, your music, or your transportation?
Disney did end up doing my floral. They just dropped off all of the ceremony floral at Corpus Christi. So the ceremony was at 1. They dropped it off at like 11:30. So by the time I got there, like everything was ready to go. We had gotten like bridesmaids bouquets, boutonnieres for the guys, mother corsages, of course, my bouquet. And then everything else for the ceremony was all planned through the church. So for the music, I had worked with the music director at Corpus Christi. And then Karen, the wedding coordinator, again, she had helped me plan everything else. So I was super thankful for her. And then for transportation, Once again, I had looked at like the Disney Bride Facebook pages and just looked for who was recommended the most. I had messaged you, Carrie. I think this was back in like November, and you had recommended VIP transportation. So when you had said that, I was like, okay, great. That's who I'm going with. And they were super easy to work with. God bless the secretary there, because I went back and forth with her so many times through email, just trying to figure out like what would be the best option budget wise. And yeah, they were great. It worked out perfectly with them.
That's cool. Did you add any kind of entertainment to the reception?
Yeah, so we had a DJ, we had Steve Weinstein, and everybody was out on the dance floor the entire night. It was great. There were a couple of slip ups, like the father and bride dance didn't happen. We did like the mother and son dance, and then he invited everybody then to go get dinner. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, me and my dad still have to dance. And then there was a slip up, like with the bridal party, the names were kind of announced wrong. So there was just some miscommunication there. But I mean, overall, he was super kind. And again, he had everybody out on the dance floor all night. So that was great. We did originally have Mickey, but in the end, I just could not justify spending $2,000 for 30 minutes of him being there. I would have absolutely loved that. And I went back and forth for a while, but again, I just couldn't justify it with the price tag. But I already know if he would have been there, it would have been absolutely amazing.
And then did you ever get to do your father-daughter dance?
We did. I had said something to, I think it was Claire and Rob, my photographers, because they had walked over to the sweetheart table like right after the dances. And I was like, we didn't do the father and daughter dance. And right away they were like, well, we'll go tell him right now. So everybody ate. And then after everybody ate, he announced me and my dad to come out on the dance floor. And then right after that was when he brought everybody else out. So honestly, it ended up flowing great. So yeah, we were still able to do it.
Oh, good. Do you have any menu items or cake flavors that you would recommend?
Yes. So we just got like a small top tier cake because I really wanted to do a cake cutting. Like I had always pictured doing that. But again, thinking about price, I couldn't justify spending 500 plus on a cake. So the one we got was like $100. We went super simple on the design. It was churro filling with cream cheese icing. And then it was really good. And it was really nice because we probably could have passed the cake out. Like it would have probably fed everybody and have been fine. But after the cake cutting, they had boxed it up. And it was just really nice over the next couple of days, like while we were having a little honeymoon in Florida, to be able to eat it. And then for our dinner menu, I had said this to my planner at the time. I was like, you're going to laugh. We're having a Grand Floridian reception. So you would think I would want like steak and that kind of thing, but I want a barbecue themed menu. So we had pulled barbecue chicken, salmon, mac and cheese, collard greens, potato salad, cornbread. There was 2 different types of salad options. I think the biggest hit of the night that we heard the most about was the mac and cheese. It was cheddar baked mac and cheese. It was super good. And then for cocktail hour, I wanted to keep it really simple because I didn't want my guests to get totally full and then not eat anything during the meal. So we just had like charcuterie style foods like breads, cheeses, and then we had shrimp with cocktail sauce. Disney was also really great. I know people usually have worries about this. They're really good about dietary needs. So I have a condition called gastroparesis, so I have to be super careful about what I eat. So when I was talking to my planner, she just said, like, tell me exactly what you want and like how you want it cooked. And they did exactly that. So when everybody else was getting their food, one of the servers had brought me out mine. So I just had like grilled chicken. They gave me like gluten-free bread. They made me like my own special mac and cheese. So as far as food goes, everything was great.
Oh, that's wonderful. Can you tell my listeners about your dessert party at the marina?
Yes. Oh my gosh. This was amazing. If you're on the fence about doing a dessert party, I highly recommend it. I feel like this was the biggest hit of the night. Everybody raved about the dessert party. So our reception ended at 8, and then the dessert party was 8 to 9:30. They just walked everybody right out. I was a little worried about that. Like, how is the flow going to go? Like, we're at the reception. How are they going to get everybody out to the marina? But that was all seamless. It was so cool, like taking our pictures while the fireworks were going off. And my photographers and videographers, they had taken us to a more private spot to get them. And then family and friends watched the fireworks back at the marina. So we had Mickey pretzels with cheese and mustard, churros with Nutella dipping sauce, and then my family and I are huge fans of the Num Num cookie in Hollywood Studios. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have that. So we had that as well. And then drinks, we just had like tea, lemonade, coffee. We didn't do any alcohol at that time because I was like, all right, well, we're already having a 4-hour reception. The bar's going to be open the whole time. So again, just thinking price-wise, that was something else that helped save us a little bit of money, was no alcohol at the dessert party. And at first I was a little worried about that. I was like, oh, are people going to be upset that there isn't any during that time? But I didn't even notice. So hopefully nobody else did. I originally wanted to do like an EPCOT welcome party, but that would have been double the price. So again, I feel like I keep talking about money, but that was just important for us, like to try to save as much as we could. So having it at the marina, timing wise, was perfect. And also it was much more budget friendly and it was just as magical. It was amazing.
That's a great tip. Can you give my listeners a timeline of how the wedding day all fit together?
Yes. So we started, well, not me, my poor bridesmaids started hair and makeup around 5:45 was when 3 of my bridesmaids had started. And then I got in the chair around 8 a.m. and was done around 10. And then from about 10 to 11, we took pictures and videos in the hotel room. We did like the bed shots with all the bridesmaids and then a couple out on the balcony. This was one of my favorite moments of the day. We then went down to take photos by the Rapunzel and Peter Pan murals. And those pictures ended up amazing. And then the bus picked us up around 12:30-ish. And then once we got to Corpus Christi, the ceremony was at 1. That was about an hour because we did do a full mass. And then right after the ceremony, we had some family photos in the church. And then we all got back on the bus to go to the Grand Floridian and we took some photos with the bridal party. And, you know, we did like the step pictures and then we did some by like the chandelier. While we were doing that, cocktail hour was 3:30 to 4:30. And then after we had taken those pictures, Disney took us to a private room. That was so nice just to be able to like sit, soak things in a little bit more, get some food because we were starving. And it was just nice to have time, just the 2 of us before we did our entrances. I think we did run a little bit behind schedule wise, but everything ended up working out. So our bridal party entrances were, I think, at around 4:45. We did the first dance right away. I didn't realize this at the time, so I feel like this is another good tip for people to know. Disney, they don't give you an option. You have to do your first dance right away, like right after you walk in. You go on the dance floor, you do your first dance. Then we had the mother and son dance. It was supposed to be the father and daughter dance after that. Again, that got a little mixed up. But then we had speeches. We ate, had the father-daughter dance. Everybody came out onto the dance floor, and then the reception ended at 8. Our dessert party was 8 to 9:30. I kept telling everybody it's going to be a very kid-friendly wedding because it was done by 9:30. Most people started heading out around 10, and then we were back at the Riviera around 11.
Got it. Okay. So you mentioned getting photos at the murals at Riviera. Do you have any other favorite memory of your wedding day?
It's so hard to pick because the day in general was just so amazing. I feel like every single part was so special, but one of my favorites was when the priest announced us as Mr. and Mrs. Gauthney, just like officially becoming husband and wife. We've been together for 10 years since high school, so that was just a really cool moment. And then walking down the aisle with my dad, seeing my husband's face once I got close enough, because the aisle at Corpus Christi is really long, but that was really nice too, because I really got my moment, and my dad and I walked really slow to soak it all in. And then this is really cool too, and I feel like this is something you end up hearing a lot about. When you're taking pictures, like when we were at the Riviera and then when we did them at the Grand Floridian, like seeing people's faces and their reactions is just priceless. Some people stood there literally for like a solid 10 minutes and just watched us. And it's just cool because I just remember like being a little girl, or even as an adult, like when you see the brides, it's really cool. So that was really cool for me to kind of have like my princess moment. And then the dessert party was also one of my favorite moments of the day. It's just not just because of the fireworks. I mean, of course, that's so awesome, but also because that gave me another hour and a half of the day just to soak everything in a little more, instead of it just being the ceremony and the reception. It was great as the bride because it made the day longer for me, which I loved.
So when you were planning, what were some of the most important aspects where you focused your attention or your budget?
The dessert party was a non-negotiable for me. I knew that that would be the main thing that made our wedding uniquely Disney, even though, of course, like the reception, you're still at the Grand Floridian. But just seeing the fireworks again just gives it that really magical, like Disney aspect. And then again, like I was saying before, I knew having it at the Grand Floridian instead of doing the EPCOT dessert party made it a lot more budget friendly. One of my recommendations would be, if you are worried about costs, really watching what foods you choose. So for our dessert party, I knew the Num Num cookie was going to be a little bit more because they had told me anything that's in park, any park food that you use like that brings the price up a little bit more. But the food can definitely make a big difference. This was another thing too. Lighting was super important to me. We used, the company name was King's Entertainment. So to put it into perspective, Disney, for 12 uplights, they wanted $1,200. Through the company I used, we got 20 of them and we paid $400. So that was a huge money saver. And again, King's Entertainment was amazing. While everybody was dancing, they like changed the colors to the beat. And I just really think my lighting is what really helped like bring the ballroom to life. And then my third, I would say, was probably the food. This is definitely where we spent the large chunk of our money. But I just wanted to make sure that my guests were well fed, just because everybody was traveling from so far. So yeah, food was another important aspect for us.
Got it. And then were there any aspects that were less important where you saved your money or just your effort?
For me, I definitely saved on the flowers. I didn't go crazy with them. For me personally, I felt like sometimes when you do so much floral, it almost takes away from you. And I didn't want that. So floral, I kept it super simple. We even saved in areas like the groomsmen didn't wear a boutonniere, just my husband did. And then another area was any extras. So like the carriage and draping. Of course, I would have absolutely loved to have the carriage, but it just, for the $6,000 price, I was like, I think we can hold off on that and do something that's going to last a little bit longer time-wise, like the dessert party, for example.
Got it. Was there anything that went wrong or just didn't turn out like you expected?
Yes. So, like I was saying, with the father-daughter dance and like the reception entrances, that was something that I was not expecting to happen. But again, it all worked out perfect at the end. And then makeup, there was a little slip up when I was leaving to go out to take pictures in front of the murals. There was like an extra $200 charge, and we didn't know where that was coming from. And this was all happening right in front of me. So it was kind of like, oh, this is kind of annoying to be walking out to pictures like this. But again, that there was nothing really that bothered me to the point that it made me like distract me from my day. The other thing was the buffet. So I had told my planner, she had recommended doing a buffet because since we were doing like a barbecue style food theme, and I had said to her, I was like, I'm a little bit nervous about that because I feel like sometimes when people go to weddings, sometimes people take that as tacky as doing a buffet. So I wanted a plated meal. And she had told me that no, Disney doesn't do it like that. They bring pretty much like the food to you, like on a cart almost. And then she had told me my guests wouldn't have to get up at all. Well, that ended up not being the case. It was a typical buffet. People had to get up out of their seats and go get the food. That was definitely not what I wanted and not what I expected. But again, I didn't let it bother me. Nobody said anything to me. So hopefully for the guests, that didn't bother them either.
Got it. Okay. Was there anything that seemed like a big deal beforehand or you were worried about, and then it turned out not to be a big deal?
Yes. So again, I feel like the church situation, I was so worried about that. And it ended up working out perfectly. It was super easy. Really how it worked was like for the brides who are Catholic or who are getting married in the church, you do all your premarital counseling in your state. You do that through your home church. And then in our case, it was the Archdiocese of Baltimore. They send your file down to the Archdiocese of Orlando, and then that gets sent to whatever church you're using in Florida. So that process ended up being really easy. And then I was a little bit nervous about the Grand Floridian Ballroom. Part of me was worried that it was going to need a lot of decorating, because that was definitely a leap of faith, because I mean, I had never seen the ballroom in person. I was just going off of pictures. But between the uplighting, and then I brought a ton of my own stuff. I brought votives with tea lights in them, candelabras. I brought a couple of different signs. Like we had a portrait of Nala and Simba by the cake table. We had a sign next to our sweetheart table like that said, "It was always you." So everything with the ballroom ended up working out great. It looked so beautiful. So I was really worried about that. And then once I walked in, I was like, oh my gosh, why was I so worried about this? And then I was also nervous too. So I had talked about with my videographers, I was like, I'm really nervous that Disney is going to rush us through the timeline, because just going to Disney in general, they're so timely. Like if the fireworks if they say they start at 9, they're starting up at 9. So I was nervous that they were going to be like that for the wedding, and I did not want my day to feel rushed. But they did not do that at all. The planning process with Disney, I wasn't super impressed with. I felt like it could have been better, but on the day of, they were absolutely amazing. They just cater to you and, are there for anything that you need. They never tell you like if anything went wrong, I didn't know about it. So yeah, the timeline was great. There was absolutely no rush at all, which was exactly what I wanted.
For your DIY items, who set those out for you?
Oh, and actually, that was another thing I was worried about because I was like, who is going to set all this up? I can't have anybody like in my immediate family because we're going to be taking pictures. And of course, like my mom can't do it or anything. This was something crazy to me. Disney didn't let us set up until 2:30 on the day of. That made me really nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, people are going to be walking into the ballroom at like 4:30. That only gives them like an hour and a half to set up. But that ended up working out as well. So it was one of my best friends who was in my bridal party, her mom and her sister-in-law, they set everything up for us. So the night before the wedding, they had met us at the Riviera and we gave everything to them. And I just put it in a text so that they could refer back to it exactly how I wanted everything to be set up. And that also saved us so much money because, of course, doing all of those things through Disney, like for one votive, Disney wanted, it was $5 for one votive, whereas on Amazon, I got a pack of 40, I think for like $30, and they were absolutely beautiful. So yeah, that was another thing I was worried about, being it was set up on day of, but that ended up working out great as well.
Is there anything you would have done differently knowing what you know now?
I think I would probably say, and this is going to sound so obvious, but your mind is in so many different places, especially that month before. Make sure you have a Zoom meeting with your DJ. We didn't, and I feel like if we did, that would have the things that did go wrong, that would have never happened if we had talked in person beforehand. And again, Steve Weinstein was amazing. It wasn't necessarily his fault or anything. But yeah, again, that seems so obvious, but make sure you talk with your DJ on the phone or on Zoom, like a week or so before the wedding.
That's a great tip. Do you have any other tips or advice, maybe for someone who's interested in combining a Catholic ceremony with a Disney reception?
Yes. So I think I would say I booked with Disney first just because I really wanted to make sure like that was set in stone and we got the day and time we wanted and everything. But right after you do that, start reaching out to whatever church you want to have the ceremony at, just so that you don't have to stress about it and that's all done. I think I would say too, and this is kind of just in general, just general advice. And it sounds so cliche because everybody is saying it to you beforehand. But again, your mind is in so many different places, but soak in every single second. It goes so fast. At first, I was like, oh, I can't wait for the planning process to be over. It's so stressful. But now I would do it 10 times over to be able to relive my wedding day. And again, I know when you're in the moment and people are telling you this, it's kind of like, yeah, I know when you hear it a million times, but really remember, you'll never really get this time back. So soak it in as much as you possibly can. And then something nobody told me that I knew I was going to be sad, but oh my gosh, post-wedding blues are so real, let alone post-Disney wedding blues. I am not exaggerating. I think I cried probably 9 days straight in a good way because I was just so happy with everything and I just couldn't believe that it was all over. There's just so much love and excitement and anticipation, and then it's just like it's over so quickly. So yeah, that's what I would say. Be prepared for post-wedding blues because it's so amazing, especially doing it with Disney. Their process, kind of like I was saying earlier, can get a little bit stressful because of their communication, but everything does end up working out in the end. And then some other advice I would give, or just some tips, something that was really nice with Disney, stuff like linens, napkins, catering, like They do all of that for you. You don't have to deal with a bunch of different vendors. So that was really nice. I mean, of course, you can go with outside vendors at the Grand Floridian if you want to, but again, just doing it with them made it so much easier.
That's great advice. Before I wrap up, do you feel comfortable sharing how much you spent on your wedding? Because it sounds like you were able to save a ton of money for, was it 80 guests?
Yes. So our final Disney bill, it was $32K. That was with everything through Disney. Of course, like that didn't include my dress, the photographers, the videographers, like those types of things. But everything through them, was 32. And anytime I would tell people that I'm getting married at Disney who aren't familiar with Disney, like people at my work and things, they're like, oh my gosh, like I feel like everybody automatically assumes if you're having a Disney wedding, you're spending $100K, but that is absolutely not the case. I was really worried at first because I was like, are we going to be able to do this? But it is absolutely possible. Now, are you going to be able to have like a $5,000 wedding with Disney? No, that's not possible. But yeah, it ended up being not that 32K is cheap, but it was way less than what I expected. So if you are on the fence about it or worried about it, for your first initial planning call, just be super honest with them. That's what I told them. I was like, we cannot spend $80K on a wedding. And again, Joe was great. He walks you through everything and all of the prices. So Disney weddings, they're definitely doable.
That's amazing. I think that this is going to be super helpful, not just for Catholic couples, but also couples who are on a budget, because a lot of times people come in and they're like, I want to have 100 guests and I only want to spend 15 grand. And that's not possible. Yeah. But having 80 guests for 32 grand is pretty great.
I think too, something that had helped me doing like the barbecue theme, that, I mean, of course with dinner, we had to spend $240 a person, but this is another tip. So Christy and Kathy were my planners. I told them we are not spending one penny over $240. So please help us stay at that range. Like if I end up going way over that, like please tell me. Or if you're noticing like the foods I'm picking are super expensive, like please let me know, because I feel like I already knew. I'm like, if it's $240 a person, I feel like, I mean, that's a lot of money. So it was like, we have to be able to get a lot of food for that price. And we absolutely did. So yeah.
That's great advice. Well, Annie, I think you've offered a lot of great advice for anyone who's interested in getting married or having a vow renewal at Walt Disney World. And I appreciate your taking the time.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you. I know I had messaged you a couple times throughout my planning process, but I was like, if anybody's going to know the answer, it's Carrie. So thank you for everything and for your book. Oh my gosh, that was so helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And good luck to all the Disney brides. Soak it in. It's absolutely amazing.
That's our show for today. I'm your host, Carrie Hayward, inviting you to join me again next week for another episode of the Disney Wedding Podcast. Past shows and tons of photos for each episode are available on my website, DisneyWeddingPodcast.com, or listen in your favorite podcast app. And for instant answers to all your Walt Disney World wedding questions, check out Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, available as an interactive ebook with continual free updates at fairytaleweddingsguide.com.